All right, Brianna, take it away.
All right. So, very popular topic, of course, the chapter and regional communities, excuse me, that you guys all have access to. So I had to start with this lovely image because I think that we can all identify with this. At least I know I could. When I was in chapter leadership, there's this wonderful box that typically gets transferred from one set of leadership to the next, to the next, to the next, and it gets stored in your office or your garage or wherever you just have room to store that wonderful box. So the communities can be a good way to get rid of that box and instead store things virtually. Um, Also, great place to store things online so that everyone has access. Obviously, I know some others have mentioned this, but the Google Drive or Dropbox, sometimes there are firewall issues accessing that from your work. I know I had that issue when I was a chapter leader and working at my former employer. I was not able to access some of those without special permission. So obviously you can access the communities from anywhere. So it's a great storage site in that way. Also, free storage and unlimited storage. So you don't have to worry about taking your files down from year to year. You can keep building upon and adding files throughout the years as your chapter leadership changes and your community group stays there. So some basics about the community. And I'll go through, after I'm done with this portion, I will hop out to the website and actually show you this information. But so the defaults with the community are that you receive an email every time someone posts a discussion or comments on that discussion. And obviously, that's not so great. We don't need any more emails. So I will show you how to modify that when I hop out to the website. But the other thing that is a default is that when a new file is posted to the library, you do not receive an email notification. So you would just happen to go out there and see it, or I'll explain another way too. Also the same with the calendar. If a new event is posted to the calendar, you also would not receive notification of that. So the only thing that you would receive automatic notification is with the default settings is a discussion or a comment on a discussion. And like I mentioned, I'll show you how to update all of that soon. One thing I would recommend, and I'll show you, is setting up email digests. So you can set up either a daily or a weekly digest for each group that you are a part of on the community, and it can be different by group. So for me, I have daily email digests for Leadership Connection, but other groups, like we have an internal staff group, I just have a weekly notification email digest that comes to me for that. And I'll show you an example of what one of those emails looks like as well, but I would recommend for everyone to sign up for one of those, especially if you do opt to not receive those discussion notifications. So the email digest gives you a summary of everything that happened in that community group. So that could be, the discussions, those comments on the discussions, a new library post, or a new calendar notification or calendar event that was created. So all of that, a summary of all of that would come in that email digest, so daily or weekly. So as a member of your community group, your regional or your chapter community groups, you are able to post a discussion topic, you're able to post files to the library, and then you're also able to add or view calendar items. So all of that is things that you can currently do in your chapter or regional groups. And then I'll also show you this. We've put together a community FAQ page that walks you through information on updating those discussion notifications. Also, there's information out here about how to change your time zone. So that's one of those important features to do, especially if you're a person that is hosting new calendar events to your community, because when you, and I'll show you the process, but when you are going out to create a new calendar event, you do have to change the time zone. So if you're, you know, in Central Time, Eastern Time, whatever, you have to update the time zone every single time that you create a calendar event. So unless you go into your settings and update your time zone there. So that just kind of simplifies the process if you are someone that is going to be out there creating calendar events. So by default, we have included certain position codes, leadership position codes, in the chapter and regional groups. So the regional groups, that the members of that group are the RE team, so RE, RE2, RE3, and then the chapter presidents and presidents-elect for that region. And then your chapter community groups, the default roles are president, president-elect, vice president, treasurer, secretary if you have that combined role, assistant treasurer, and then both voting and non-voting directors. So those are the defaults. If you need to add members to a group, that is completely okay and very possible. We would just ask that you let us know who you would like to add, and then we can go in and do that. And the reason why it's easiest for us to add is because we actually tie it into our system so that at the end of the chapter year, those roles end. So then starting a new year, new chapter year, the new position codes would take effect, and the new leadership would have access to that community group. So it's all role-based, if that makes sense. So it's easiest for us to add those for you. Also, we've seen some chapters and regions have asked to add subgroups for their community groups. And you can add a subgroup, you know, whether it's a technology committee, maybe you have an annual conference that you're working on and you want to post documents and communicate via community, we can create a separate community for that as well. So there's really a lot that you can do, and I'm going to pop out to the website. And actually, first I'm going to show you just an example of what an email digest looks like. So this is an email digest, and as you can see, it's showing me new files that were posted that day. Since I have a daily digest, you can have a weekly digest as well. And then also it's showing you any discussions that were created that day. So you can see it's a summary at the top. What were the new files? What were the discussions? And then below, you can actually see the detail. So very easy way to get a summary of what has happened rather than getting inundated every single time something's posted. So now I'm going to show you how to update these things. So first of all, I'm sure all of you are familiar with how to get to the community, but in case you're not, this is the HFMA homepage. Community is just right at the top. So that's where you would go. And once you click on that, this is the community homepage that comes up. And then you can go to My Groups. Now I have a lot of groups. So I have created a bookmark for Leadership Connection since I go to that the most. So this is the Leadership Connection homepage. Now from here, like I mentioned, by default, you are going to get an email anytime a new discussion is posted. So if I go out to the discussions page, right over here on the side, it says turn form notifications off. So if I did not want to receive an email every time a discussion is posted or a comment is made, I would have, my lovely cat is joining me for this discussion. You would just hit turn form notifications off, and then you no longer will receive an email every time a discussion is posted. I want to receive them because I just don't get enough emails, but that's what you would do. Now, to change those email digest options, because like I mentioned, by default, you do not get email digests. There's a couple different ways you can do this. So if I go back to the home page for Leadership Connection, right here at the top, it says Email Digest Options. So if I click on that, it will bring up a pop-up that asks me if normally yours would say not subscribed, but I can choose daily or weekly right here. So I have daily, and there you go. Now instead of getting an email every time a discussion is posted, I will just get an email daily with all the summary of content. Now I'm going to show you a separate way to go in and do this in case you're a member of many community groups and want to update this all in one swoop. So I'll go up to my account. So top right corner, if you're following along on your screen, I'll go to Settings. And then Email Digest right here. And as you can see, all of my list of groups are on here. All of your chapter and community groups, I do not subscribe to. So you can post anything out there. I'm not going to see it. But this would be where I would go in to each group and change whether I want to receive something daily or weekly. Now, as long as I'm out in the settings, I'll also show you here where you would update that time zone. So under Options, you'll see Time Zone. Now, I'm pretty sure if you are all out there, it might say Universal Time Zone, which who knows what that really is, but I would go ahead and update to whatever time zone you are so that when you're out in the calendar, you're seeing things in your own time zone. All right. So I'm going to go back to my groups. Actually, first I'll go back to the community homepage here so you can see how I get out here again. But if you ever have questions, I mean, some of this stuff is posted to the community, of course, but there's a community FAQ page that everyone can easily access. And here you can see things like creating a calendar event, setting your time zone. You can see the lovely little snapshots of my face right there. So that is all out there. If you're not following along and you want to go out later and make those changes, that FAQ is right here on the community homepage. So I'll go back to my groups and I'll go to Leadership Connection since you all have access to that. So you can see at the top we have discussion, library, calendar, members, mentions, tags, subgroups. So subgroups would be, like I mentioned before, if you wanted to have a subgroup for your technology committee, for your annual conference, that would be where they would show up. They also show up along the side. So in your communities, if you ever want to create a discussion, all you do is navigate and hit this new at the top. And then this page comes up. You can add a subject, you can add a description, and then you can add tags. Now, you can think of a tag kind of as a keyword search. So if I wanted to add, here's ones that I've already used, but LTC, these things just help if someone was going to do a keyword search on the page. And I'll show you how to do that. But very simple, and then you would just post. So another feature of the library, which I know a lot of you have used, we have many folders out in our Leadership Connection library, and we do have some default folders in your chapter community groups as well. If you do ever want a folder added, just send us a note, let us know what you want the name of that folder to be, and we can easily create that for you. One thing I'll note, for the chapter and regional community groups, we've found that you could, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about it. Right now, I believe we have board meetings as one of the default folders out in your library. Now, you could add a fiscal year folder if you wanted to post everything for 1 year there, or you could also add everything to one folder and then tag based on the year. Kind of is up to you and how you might want to organize that, but both are good options. I think many of you are also familiar with the calendar, but same kind of concept. When you're creating a calendar event, you just navigate to the calendar, click new, and then you would fill in all of your information. And you can see here it's defaulting to the Central Time Zone since I set that as my time zone in the settings. And we always just set it to no registration required, just because we aren't actually using this site as the registration mechanism. Now, tags. So do you remember how I mentioned that you can add tags and you can add them to file folders in your library, you can add them to the calendar events, you can add them to your discussion posts. So what happens with those tags? So you can see tags are an option at the top when you're looking at the ribbon. Now, everything that I have tagged would show up here. And you can see, depending on the number of tags, the word is bigger. So for instance, July 10th LTC, all of the things that I have tagged with July 10th LTC show up here. So it's a quick, easy way to get to something on a specific topic. And it would pull up your folders, or excuse me, your files within a folder in the library here. It would pull up discussions, it would pull up calendar events. So anything that is tagged with that word could be found here. So I should pause in case there are any questions that have come through.
Brianna, do you ever use hashtags for your tags?
I don't, but you could. You absolutely could. You can literally type anything as a tag. Any other questions or anything I can help show you? I know some of you we've done have requested one-on-one sessions. So if any of you are on and if there's something I didn't share that I shared with you on one of those sessions, feel free to let me know too.
So if a hashtag was added to a tag, would it populate without the hashtag? So if I did hashtag FPM and then I just typed in FPM in the search, would it come up? Yeah, because I know that the search function when we had, I just want to be careful about adding things because if somebody doesn't put it in there, it may not populate when you search for something. So I would just be.
But everything would show up here if you go to tags.
Oh, I see what you're saying. But if you wanted to search by a tag, if you put a hashtag there,
yeah,
there's nothing that would populate, right?
It might start to populate, but
okay,
you could miss it. I would probably be
I would just be careful with that one. That was all I wanted to say.
Any other questions? Does it make sense? Well, if anyone does have questions afterwards, you can always reach out to us and we can walk through this with you one-on-one. There's no dumb questions. I spend a lot of time in here, so it's easy for me to navigate. But
Brianna, I have a question. This is Tracy Quinn. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So if we are wanting to utilize this within our chapter and we create a folder, can everybody see that, or is that just our
Good
chapter?
question. Good question. So only that group, even if only the members of that specific community group can see it. Even if you created a subgroup underneath your group, so say you wanted a technology committee and that was a subgroup of your chapter community, even that subgroup would not see what you post in the parent group, and vice versa. If they post something in the subgroup and you're not a member of that subgroup, you're not going to see it. So it has to be only the members of that specific community group. Good question.
And Rebecca has a question about, does every chapter already have a folder set up, or do we need to manually do that?
So everyone has a community, all the chapters have a community group set up, and there are default folders in your library. Each chapter has the same default folders, but if you would like different folders added, we can absolutely do that. Very easy. If someone wanted me to do it right now, I could show you. It's very quick.
That would be awesome.
Demonstrate how to create a new folder in the library.
I can. And
Yes.
no, I have access to do that, but that's not something.
Can you demonstrate though how to do it? Can you just can you add a folder in the library real quick? Just call it test and then we can delete it.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we have this at the certain roles and responsibilities for the community. So Brianna can go in here and do this. If you want new folders created, Brianna, can they create their own folders within their community?
Not by default. We could give you access to do that, but by default, we are the only ones that can create it. And to be honest, I think most people I've talked to would like us to do that. But if you want to, we absolutely can give you access to do that.
I think that looks like all the questions so far.
All right. Good deal. Well, I would, if you haven't had a chance to use the community, I would say it's a great tool to use. And if you can definitely use it as a communication tool within your leadership group as well. If you go out and, use the discussions and you're opted into the notifications for your own small group, then anytime something is posted, you could essentially decide when you're going to have your next board meeting via a discussion. One of the fun tools I've found in here is that you can actually insert a poll in a discussion. So I could say, when should we have our next board meeting, and put them as options, and then people could vote. So there's a lot of tools that you can play around with in there.
Tracy, she has, when you add a folder to the library, how does it default to log into our specific chapter? You actually, if you go to my groups in the community, you should see your chapter there. So when Brianna got in here, she went into the leadership connection, but here, if you go back to the community home, you have a tab that says my groups, and you should see your chapter in there. If you don't, Tracy, let us know. Because you should have access into your chapter one. But the folder that she just put it in is in the leadership connection. So if you wanted folders added to your specific Wisconsin folder, we would go into Wisconsin and add that into the library.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I just see my region, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, so we can get you added. Let me go look, and we can look at that and let you know today. And then Mike McKeever has, is there an estimate timeline on correcting initial setup issues? Yes, we're aware of that. And I know that our team, Melanie is working with our IT team on the syncing with our member data. And what we did was we didn't want anybody just to have access into your chapters. We initially just set it up for the board. If you want more people added to it, you can send that to Brianna or the chapter at hfma.org, and we can work through that. And right now, Mike, we are working on that, but it is not complete that I was aware of before yesterday. So we will give an update as soon as that is complete on the correction. Who do I contact if I assign to the wrong chapter group? Jason Williams, we will be in contact today. We will look into that and get you into the right chapter group.
Thank you.
And that is what Mike is referring to from the initial.
Okay.
So we will definitely, I'm writing your name down now. So we will look into that today and send you either a message via chat or we'll respond over email.
Yeah, if there's ever something that you notice that's off, just let us know. Like Mike mentioned, there is an issue that we're working on, and we're aware of some issues with initial setup items, but we can, in the meantime, while we're working through that, we can definitely make manual corrections. So please let us know. It's an easy fix on our end. So.
Yeah, so Stacy, you're absolutely right. If you want access to do that, some people want it and some people don't. From adding, individuals, there is a lot of individuals to choose from. And if you let's say there's Brian Smith, and there's 5 Brian Smiths to add to a group. If you don't know exactly what their member ID is, it's a little difficult to add them into the group, and that's why we've kind of left it at the level that we've left it. And to be able to navigate some of those things are not as easy as one would think, that you just click on the name and you appear into that group. So that's the reason that we have the restriction. If you would like to have that access, Brianna would be more than happy to get on a quick call and go over how to do all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, feel free to, like I mentioned, reach out to us if you have questions or you notice anything is off, and we will work with you on that.